GNL Zamba BABOON Force, a legend.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, and we're live.
So what's
How
going
you
on?
doing? How you doing, Ben Wilkins?
I'm doing good.
How is everything going in your life?
Things are good. It's hot.
It is hot. It is hot in LA, right?
Yeah.
It is really.
It's like the first really hot day was yesterday.
Yeah, and it went up to what, like 95,
96, I think.
96. Okay, which is the hottest we've ever experienced? Because that wasn't the hottest ever.
No, I think it's been like 120.
Do you believe in global warming? Is it a thing?
I don't think it's a thing you have to believe in. I think
Yeah.
it's a thing that's clearly been measured and exists. Doesn't require any belief on my part.
It's a thing that has been tried and tested. So what do you say to people who say it is just a hoax, that the Chinese are just trying to sell all this green technology and convert American dependency on oil and fossil and convert it to green energy? What do you say to such people who say
This
that?
is such an interesting question because I
Yeah.
actually spent a good part of this week trying to have one of those discussions on Facebook
Uh-huh.
with someone who is completely defending the oil and gas industry in Canada.
Yes.
And to me, this is a thing that Canadians, sort of should be ashamed of. The tar sands has turned an area of virgin land into what is now 200,000 square kilometers of completely useless toxic waste.
Yeah. What did you did you say tar sand?
The tar sands, yeah.
Yeah.
So the
What's
way
that?
the tar sands is, so it's a part of Canada that has a lot of oil, but the oil is very dirty. It needs to go through a very expensive refinement process,
Mhm.
and it creates so much CO2
Yes.
to actually extract it
Yeah.
that it's like, normally you take oil out of the ground, you burn it, it creates CO2.
Yeah,
CO2, that's a problem.
CO2, for the ones that don't know, because someone in the comments said that sometimes we speak so many technical terms and we need to break them down.
Okay.
But yeah, CO2, for the people that don't know, that's carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide, which
Yeah.
is the gas that is leading to global warming, right? Or the
Yes,
greenhouse effect.
Yes.
So yeah, this person was saying, it creates jobs, it's helped the economy, it's done all these different things, and how, and I'm saying, okay, but at what cost? Like
Exactly.
At
At what cost? Yes,
is
that's
it?
the question.
Can you really look at 200,000 square kilometers? I mean, that's larger than England, and it's these like giant pools where they have to put all this like dirty water that is required to clean it. Is it worth it?
And is this on the east coast of Canada? Is it in the middle?
It's on the west
where is it?
coast,
It's on the
Alberta.
west coast. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really sad when people make the argument and only look at, this thing is going to create jobs and it's going to boost the economy. But then they forget that those are the things that can easily be solved.
Mm-hmm.
Not easily be solved, but then if the damage that you're creating, there's no way of reversing that, then that's not a route that you want to take,
Right.
Like if you're going to be creating 1 million jobs, but that means that the ecological systems are going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to be having any fish,
Right.
or going to be able to drink any clean water,
Right.
and the ducks are going to die and birds will be falling out of the sky, then the 1 million jobs, that's not the best way to go about it.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to go a little slower and consider the options. That's not the only option to create jobs, because in green energy there is also jobs that are created from that.
Right. The economy, this is what the economy needs, and look how important oil is.
Yeah.
So you can't be against it because everything's made out of plastic and plastic comes from oil. And, these arguments don't actually hold up because they sort of imply that the only way you can really build your economy is through oil extraction. And it's clearly just not the case. There's a lot of opportunities in other industries.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of those other industries, although sometimes also will have some environmental detrimental effects.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to the tar sands. The tar sands, the fact that the scientific community said, look, if they give the green light to this program, we're going to speed up the problem of climate change drastically. It's the least efficient way to extract oil. And then Canada said, okay, but it's going to be good for us and give us jobs. And they said yes. In that moment, I think Canada loses all credibility.
And when you begin thinking about countries that really need, and I know this, every country needs to solve their unemployment problems. In Uganda, we have some of the highest rates of unemployment, right?
Right.
All over, not even in Africa, but all over the world. The youth don't really have jobs, and we have like a very, very young population out there. But if I were to juxtapose the two nations, Uganda and Canada is in a much better position.
Sure.
And you have a smaller population to even take care of.
Right.
So I think with the resources that Canada has, the alternative resources that Canada has and the finances that it has, that the budget is in a surplus, right? You're not even operating on a deficit. I believe
I'm not sure. I think Canada might be on a deficit.
Is it on a deficit?
It might, but that's kind of part of economic school of thought. I forget exactly the source of this, but the idea is, if you're a government and you want your citizens to be living healthy, happy, productive lives, it's actually sometimes beneficial to be running at a deficit because you can borrow money, start programs, create jobs, which creates more currency velocity, and then you're going to get a lot back through taxes once the economy grows. So that's another common fallacy, the idea that if the government borrows money, it's the same as if you or I borrow money. It's really a different thing.
Yeah. So if Canada needs to borrow money, does it go knock on the Queen's door, on the door of the UK? Does it come to Trump? Does it go to the World Bank, IMF? Where does it go? I
think it's just always private banks.
Oh, private banks lending
or
the nation?
It's things like
dangerous.
Or it's things like bonds, right?
So, okay.
So you can take your money as an individual citizen and choose to buy,
government bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they promise they're going to pay you back at 6% or 8% or whatever it is in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a safe bet as long as the economy and the country doesn't completely collapse.
I like that. But just to go back to the topic of what we're talking about, the cost, the opportunity cost and the cost of all of this development, because in school I studied environmental management. That was my degree.
No way.
Yeah, for real. Like, that's why when stuff about the environment comes up, I'm like really passionate, because I used to go out to villages and places and carry out impact assessments of if they are establishing such and such a plant, what is going to be the opportunity cost? What are we going to lose? What are we going to lose in terms of the environment, in terms of the biodiversity in the region? What does it bring? And we were always told not to be in a position where we are against development, but where we were ensuring sustainable development. So is it sustainable, or is it just draining all the resources and it's not going to be sustainable in 10 years? So I was doing those things, going to places, and I worked out there briefly, and then I opted to go do music. But my heart is still with conservationists.
That's interesting.
So when we were visiting Toronto, there was an exhibit which was being put up at a museum, and this museum had an exhibition about waste.
Okay.
Now, it will surprise you that much as our cities look organized, none of them deals with a quarter of the waste that they produce. So
Really?
their best way of dealing with the waste is, let's try to recycle a little bit of it and then find someone's backyard where to dump it.
Right.
So New York, I think New York dumps its stuff like in Nevada or some state somewhere in the middle. It's not like really in a New York land. Part of it goes to like a New York landfill where they try to recycle and sort out what they can sort out. Then the rest is put out to some state.
They used to just dump it in the ocean too.
Yeah. And then the environments the environments were like, what are you doing? The sharks are swallowing all this plastic.
Yeah.
The whales are dying. Like that's not a sustainable way for us to grow. So I had, there's this picture of a landfill which was at the entrance, and much of the water bottles that are produced like end up in India. I don't know how, but for some reason much of the water bottles that are produced in the US and in most states end up somewhere in India. And it's huge. It's like a mountain of waste.
Right.
It's like, and thinking about all these large cities and how much our need to consume all these other products, which speaks to our insatiable nature. I think where we are at right now, the earth is not really running a sustainable lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
So this conversation I got into started because the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just announced that he wants to ban all single-use plastic by 2021.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
That seems smart. Because it's not to say that plastic is a terrible thing. It has good uses. Like if you want to contain a bunch of nuclear waste, putting it in something that never breaks or decomposes makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But to use that for a drink that you're going to just drink and throw the bottle
away.
out,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. Also, I looked into this recently. Most plastic can only be recycled once or twice. So you get the sense that, it's fine, I'm recycling. I'm recycling, it's okay. It's like actually a huge amount of that will never be recycled and can't. And only if it can, only once or twice. Whereas things like aluminum, glass, that can be recycled indefinitely.
Interesting. So I heard that one of also the other things that we can do right now, because the plastic bottles are some of the biggest problems right now in terms of waste.
Right.
The plastic bottles and the straws.
Right.
Like using the straws. And the recommendation from most environmental bodies and states that are trying to be green is just find something reusable.
Right.
Like we're going to be putting all these taps in all these public places, and you can just go out there with your can and refill.
Right.
You don't need to buy a new bottle each and every time, and which I support. I'm behind that, you know. And let me see. Rwanda, you mentioned one of the countries that has banned plastic, plastic, and Rwanda is the country that came to my mind. So Rwanda is ahead of Canada in that they completely want nothing to do with plastics in their country.
Wow.
So if you're going to go to a grocery store, it's going to be some recyclable paper that you're going to be putting it in, or buy a bag that's basically for your groceries and use that over and over again.
Right.
So I think if more states began implementing these things, because most of the challenges, environmental challenges, are because the people in power are reluctant to enforce the policies.
Right, because there's so much money to be made in the private industry, and the industry always lobbies to get the politicians to allow them to do it. Yeah. Right. I mean, the tar sands to me is just so completely outrageous.
How do you spell that tar sands?
Tar.
Because in my hand, I'm spelling Tarzan, but replacing the Z with the S.
It's TAR.
TAR.
Tar, like that. Gunk, you know,
and then sands,
like sands, just like sand at the beach.
Sands. Yeah. Okay, my African accent doesn't say it like that.
So, but that's just a crazy example of you hope that these organizations are somewhat responsible. Yeah, you would hope that like someone like you would go do an ecological survey of an area and say, okay, this is what's going to happen to the environment.
Yeah.
This is the negative effects.
Yes.
And this is potentially how much money we can make.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think it's worth it. You would hope that the people that were making that decision would listen to you and say, oh, well, looks like it's going to not be worth it. But not only did the scientific community say this is going to be the most destructive form of oil extraction,
yes,
all the companies said, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah, okay. I have 2 points here also. 2 points to make here. Is that's just, the tar sands is just one example. When you think about what's happening in Brazil, for it, it's on an alarming level. Like,
what's happening?
They're trying to clear the Amazon, which is the earth, what they call the earth's lungs.
Right.
Because it has most of the green and it has some of the most biodiversity. And some of the medicine that we use is extracted from there.
Right.
Like, and it has taken years and years for the forest to become a forest. I believe at some point it was a shrub. But some of these trees are like thousands of years old. You get me? And they have cousins and siblings, and it's a really beautiful place,
Right.
But the current administration is trying to take away the land from the indigenous people so it can clear more. There's land which was designated and cut off, and it was meant to be just conserved. Like, let's never touch this. But now they have come to a time where the greed of the administration and the foreign banks that are investing in the oil industry want to exploit and cut off more the forest, like race it to the ground and even chase the indigenous people away. And one of the indigenous leaders was killed, like mysteriously.
Wow.
Just to deny them a leader and somebody who can advocate. But that's just one of the examples. This is happening all over the world. And in America, there was a pipeline being constructed, and the Native Americans were saying, this is not the place. This is the place where we get the water to drink. And it wouldn't be a great idea for the pipeline to go through here because the lines burst all the time. And if the construction is going to disturb all the animals that are going to be migrating through this place, it's going to disturb the way of life of the indigenous people as well.
Yeah.
But we all know how that ended. It was police and guards. No, it was police first.
Yeah.
And then it was the army. And then before we know it, people are getting hosed and the pipeline is being built.
Right.
Yeah. So, but also to play, in the beginning, I asked you, let me ask you a question that the other side always raises. The people that don't believe in global warming and all this climate change and the loss of biodiversity, they say that most of the times, like you said about the tar sands, that, this is going to be really, really dangerous to the environment. In fact, if we don't do it, this is the most dangerous. Do the environmentalists cry wolf all the time? Is it crying wolf all the time that the other side never sees the impact? Do we over-threaten
so
than dealing with what's realistic?
Right. I would say there's a part of the environmentalist movement that can sound a little bit like fear-mongering. And especially, it doesn't do any good when you say, by the year 2020, this whole city is going to be underwater, because if it doesn't happen at that rate, you sort of lose a bit of credibility. You can definitely make an argument that the green lobby is, it has its own interests and whatnot, but you can't argue that what we're currently doing is ultimately unsustainable. I mean, even if climate change isn't real, eventually we're going to run out of oil, and we need to get off that, because we cannot infinitely renew that resource.
Yeah, definitely we are going to run out of oil, and even when the scientists are off, when they say 2020, it might not be 2020, because weather is we haven't really studied weather to master it to the point where we can just say No, we have mastered weather, but we haven't mastered climate.
Sure.
Climate is something which could change in 40 years, right?
Right.
But that 40 years is not like on the dot. It could be 40 and 4 years, or it could be 38. So it's just a time period.
And a lot of the predictions are completely correct.
Yeah,
like they predicted more
yeah.
extreme weather events.
And, we're seeing the extreme weather events happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, more frequently and more devastating.
So we are dealing with loss of biodiversity. The globe is warming up because of all the greenhouse gases that are being put out. We are dealing with a lot of waste which we're not being able to recycle, and we are fracking and using all these unsustainable ways of mining. And to me, the biggest disaster would be if we're to run out of water and we can't grow food anymore.
Right.
If we run out of water and people can't drink, and we run out of food and places people are hungry, it's going to become, I'm not fear-mongering here, but to me that's the apocalypse.
Yeah. Because
you see people at their worst when the most basic of needs, when the most basic of needs is boiled down to survival. You see videos of like refugee camps when the truck for water shows up, and people do not care if you are their neighbor or their best friend. They'll put an elbow in your face just to get a drop of water. You get me?
Yeah.
So imagine the rich areas having a reservoir, right?
Yeah.
And the people, only one reservoir, and the rest of the water is contaminated from the oil, and they were fracking and they were responsible, and there was an oil spill and the people cannot get fresh water anymore. They will do anything to get to that reservoir. It doesn't matter, you might kill the first people, you might kill the second people, but the third wave might be unstoppable just because they know you have water.
Right.
Yeah. And most of these things are already happening. Mexico City is running out of water. Cape Town, one time, was saying it was running out of water. It was saved by the rains at some point. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But the picture
you're painting
doesn't
a pretty
really
depressing
look attractive.
picture here.
Yeah, like sometimes I think about it and it even raises my anxiety.
Yeah, I think you're raising everyone's anxiety right now.
Yeah, well, good. Because people need to. There is a phenomena that my lecturer was telling me about, but I'm forgetting what it's called. But it's a thing that's in us as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And let me exemplify it. I'll put it this way: if I told a smoker that this cigarette might give you lung cancer, it has been told to people so many times. It's on the package. It's everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people do not react to things that take long to manifest or affect their lives.
Right.
So, but if a smoker, if you were to tell a smoker that if you smoke that cigarette, you're going to dry up and die in 2 days, they will take you more seriously. So, we are in a position right now where environmental issues and environmental phenomena take about 40 years, 100 years, 50 years, 10 years to manifest. That the effects of what you're doing right now is irreversible, and it's going to be felt the impact is going to be devastating 10 years from now. People will not pay attention to that unless it is immediate. You know, that's just a flaw in our human condition as well. We only fear things that affect us immediately. But if we're told it's 10 years, you're willing to take the risk.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And that's where we are. I think that's the challenge.
Yeah. But a big part of it might just be our own lifestyle cycles, right? Like we all have this weird arbitrary stress on like what we think we should be doing at what age. Right? Like, I'm in my 20s, so I should maybe have like my education done, or I should be working on it, or I should be getting experience in a job, or And then, I'm like, I'm 30. I should probably like start having kids. Or there's all these different arbitrary or culturally informed ideas of what you're supposed to do at what age. And a lot of the time, that sort of race against time that we're all in makes us overlook things like what's going to happen 100 years from now. It's hard to see that. It's hard to think about that.
It's very hard to see that. It's very hard to predict that. I don't know. I was listening to a song recently, just out of the blue. It's funny that you're mentioning Race Against Time, because I was listening to a song I used to listen to as a teenager, and it was a song by Ja Rule called Race Against Time. Now, Ja Rule is not a deep lyricist. I wouldn't call him a deep lyricist. He's not like on a level of like Nas where he's going to spit something intelligent.
Right.
But the chorus goes, in my race against time, I can't keep from running through the red light. Because I know life is getting too hard, so I'ma keep running through the red light. You know?
That sounds
I like that.
Some classic Ja right there.
Some classic Ja. Ja! Yeah, man, on some New York shit.
Did you see the Firefest documentary?
Oh, I saw the Firefest. Do you know what's funny? We were organizing an event right where the Firefest thing was coming. And I was like, this couldn't have been the wrongest timing. Like, we're trying to put on an event, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking to investors, and we're talking to people who are going to be sponsoring the event.
Yeah.
And then the Ja Rule documentary drops.
Right.
I'm like, this is the worst time to drop a Ja Rule documentary. What did you think about the Fire Festival?
It was hilarious.
Yeah. What was the most hilarious part about it?
I think somebody, I forget who, I'm going to probably butcher this, but the tweet that was hilarious was like, it was like this guy that I guess got a free ticket and he went. Yeah. And he was like, oh man, people complain about this festival, but for me, seeing all these trust fund babies freaking out because they didn't have room service in like a comfortable place. Yeah. It's like, that was like soup for the middle class soul. Yeah, that was funny. I mean, it's a pretty amazing and glaring indication of how easy it is to create an impression, to create a buzz, to make people. I mean, and even in the documentary, he's talking about how like they're selling this idea, and it doesn't have to be real; it just has to be like a fantasy.
Thank you, bro. So when I was watching that, I was like, this is a metaphor for so many things in life, in entertainment. Yeah. Because most people in entertainment are not bothered about selling the product itself. They're like, I'll sell people this idea. I'll sell people this dream. And I think, honestly speaking, I love America. And I love what America represents and the values of America. But let's face it, America is the biggest marketing scheme or marketing idea ever in the world. It's a marketing plot. It's like, the greatest country in the world. I don't think it is the greatest country in the world. Everybody thinks their country is the greatest country in the world. But if you market it that way, everybody wants to do business and come visit the greatest country in the world.
I have to say, just interject and say that I do not think that Canada is the greatest country in the world.
No, because you don't like the country that much. But if I asked somebody else, how does Canada market itself?
I personally don't like countries that much. I think this idea of nationalism is kind of dangerous to begin with. Yeah. If you want to create a world that's, moving in the right direction, if we want to move forward, Canada, let's say, has such a small population, less people than live in Uganda, and they have control over the second largest landmass in the world. That's pretty crazy and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, but these lines are drawn kind of arbitrarily. Like, if you want the sort of thinking that you want to move forward is that if we're going to move into some sort of Star Trek utopia, is that people are just people, and we should be aiming for equal access.
That's what my music is about. My music is about, and our music is about breaking those boundaries and just seeing people just unifying people, but without people being uniform, you know?
Right.
You can be wherever you are from, you can be white, you can be whatever, anything, but just be unified. But you don't have to be uniform. I don't have to look like you believe the things that you believe, but we can be unified. That's what my music is about.
Right.
But that's what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about right now is how do countries market themselves, and how do people market these ideas? Because if you look at it at the end of the day, everything else is just a marketing scheme. It's not as great as you told it is. Like if they show you places that you should visit on the Travel Channel, they forget to tell you how expensive that shit is.
Right.
You get me? The water is not that azure blue. It's edited.
Right.
Someone took a director and an actor to play the part of them being happy with a child running on sand.
Yeah.
So that's how Greece markets itself. Thailand. There are places that are amazing, but they're not as amazing as you see them in the ads. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but what's interesting is now it's not even the ads. People do it to their own friends. So let's say you buy that package. You're like, oh, I need to go to Greece because that beach looks amazing. Yeah. And then you're standing on that beach and the water's not quite as blue, but you use a filter so that your friends think, wow, he really got to experience that.
That's why I was like, bro, to me, Fire Festival was the biggest metaphor for the times we're in right now.
Yeah.
People were willing to pay. How much was the ticket? 2,000?
I think it was like 20,000 or something.
To get a cabana for 20,000 or 10,000, all I have to do to convince you to give me that money is a picture of a model and a filter.
Yeah.
How fucking dumb are we?
Yeah.
I only have to show you a picture of a celebrity on a beach with a filter, acting all happy. That's not his life every day.
Yeah. It's so interesting, you know? Right? Like the social media companies have figured out how to build this basic frame architecture, and have basically all of the users give their own content, and that's what gives it value. Yes. But what's so strange is how people psychologically are now like getting the buzz of that fraud, right? It's like, it looks so much better than it really was, but now I'm gonna look good.
It's not a fraud. This is the best way of looking at it. It's the same way of looking at Kim Kardashian. People say, "Oh, Kim Kardashian is evil. She's exploiting blah blah blah."
They do?
People, oh yeah, of course. Like Kim gets so much flack, but Kim and Kim Kardashian, who is who I'm talking about. Kim Kardashian, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat are all the same thing. It's an advertising agency. It's not a social media networking site. It's not for you to connect. It's an advertising agency. And that agency only operates on the premise that people are vain. It's appealing to the flaw in the human nature. People are vain and they would like people to shit on in their lives. People always want to validate their lives by shitting on other people. That's the reason the Kardashians are popular, and that's the reason Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat exist. To make money off you trying to shit on other people, showing that your life is better than any other person's life, so that if other people come to see how your life is better than their life, we'll make money off that.
That's so strange.
So it's evil answering evil. It's the flaw.
Yeah, so then why do you think people post all these like absurd quotes where they're like it's like just a photo of a girl in a bikini and it's like dare to inspire. hashtag nobody can stop me, but you're showing me your ass. Everybody is a pseudo philosopher now. And I'm not mad at that because at the end of the day, that sex sells, and see, it's an advertising agency. It's an advertising agency. If I manage to attract people to my ass, I can sell them a blouse. If I manage to attract people to this face and the shit that I say, I'll sell them a ticket. I understand like the top tier models or people that have like huge amount of followers that they're getting approached by advertisers and it's getting corrupted that way.
Yeah.
What sort of more boggles my mind is the folks that have like 1,000 people, the folks that have like barely anyone really paying attention, but they still go out of their way to get that really like polished photo and that caption.
Because
to what, bust their friends' balls? Like what is the point?
Because at the end of the day, all of us dream, all of us want to be a better version of ourselves. And when you're watching Gary Vee, who is a very motivational guy.
Yeah.
You know Gary Vee?
Yeah.
So when you watch Gary Vee and Gary Vee tells you, don't give a fuck if you only have 1,000 followers now. You're going to be having 1 million followers within a year if you stay consistent. Consistency and results. Consistency and results. Just like a runner on the track field. Hussein Bolt had to go to the road.
I think
there's so many motivational speakers
Yeah.
that a person with 1,000 is going to keep the machine going.
I think
The
that's such
algorithm going,
horseshit.
because the motivation, every side you turn, there's a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
You get me?
It's horseshit. I've seen people that have that same attitude, that same like, okay, guys, you know, I just wanted to share with you my beauty tips, but they don't have very many followers.
There's a
It's
fucking guy who pisses me off. Sorry for cutting you off. There's a guy who fucking pisses me off. He's called Ty Lopez. Funny, I even went into him like when we were at the comedy show, but I was like, you're so fucking disgusting.
No way, Ty Lopez?
I
He's
don't
like
know
a con
if he's
artist.
called Ty Lopez, but he wears specs.
Yeah.
He's this guy who shows you a picture. Every time I'm on my YouTube, he's like, yo, you see this Lamborghini.
Yeah.
All you have to do is click and then watch through this, and I'm going to show you how to do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
His voice is annoying. His face is annoying.
And he tries to sell you knowledge.
He tries to say, but the whole thing is a pyramid scheme too.
Right.
You get me?
Yeah.
So there are so many people like that on the internet. Sorry, I cut you off, but I saw his picture coming in my mind, and I had to say what I felt about the motherfucker.
Yeah. What's the guy that you were mentioning before? The motivational speaker guy?
I like Gary though.
Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gary
well,
is practical. He'll tell you, go sell a sneaker.
I don't know if I think... I've listened to a few of Gary Vee's videos, and he's definitely charismatic, and he definitely has a captive audience that's picking up what he's throwing down.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a cool guy. I do take some issue with the idea that somehow if you're not like, you know, generating crazy obvious success with every fiber of your being, every minute you're awake, that somehow your life is meaningless. Like, it's okay to not have a following. It's okay to tread lightly on earth and go sit in the park and read poetry. Like, that's totally okay. And I feel like people shouldn't have the stress to be these like wild power, like CEO type people who work 80 hours a week and are miserable. Like, wouldn't you rather live in a city where people like enjoy themselves and go out and eat at restaurants and like
that's what,
love their friends?
It's a very beautiful thing that you bring up. You're very right. But also, I have to mention that it's up to the people. It's a personal choice at the end of the day. You can decide not to be on Facebook or Twitter or any of these things, or update any of these things and unplug. But then again...
Yeah, it's a personal choice, but you're still saturated in a culture, right? And the culture is going to influence you in a certain way.
Yeah.
And right now, the culture is screaming towards this, like, you know, you realize like there's people who are paying $1,000 to sit in a private jet on a runway to take pictures, to pretend that they're on this jet. Like, that's happening.
Bow Wow challenge.
I mean, it's that. How absurd is that? Like,
Bow Wow was called Pants Down, so he was on a... I don't know if he was like in economy. He might have been in first class, but he was pretending to be on a jet. Okay. So somebody who was behind him and followed his account, like, took a picture of him. He's like, this boy is out here pretending to be on a jet. Okay, Bow Wow is no longer a boy; he's a man now. Mm-hmm. Like, he's pretending to be on a jet, but we're seated in the same cabin.
Yeah,
you know, like, and he exposed him, and that created the Bow Wow challenge.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but you're saying people pay $1,000?
I mean, I think it's even more than that. They pay like $10,000. They take to have a photo shoot on a private jet, but the jet's not. Oh no,
for $10,000 you can fly to Vegas at least in a jet.
Oh, then okay, I don't know.
Yeah, but like
I haven't even looked into it.
Yeah.
But the point is, people who can't afford to actually take these planes will still pay the money to have a photo shoot in the plane, pretending that they have the money to take the plane.
Yeah.
It's, to me, that's just like so weird.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing this to each other?
But
why are you doing that to the people that are actually following you?
Do you know what's funny, bro? Do you know what's really funny? Is that we all want this. I think I've had this conversation with you before about the conflict of the artist and what the industry is. So I'll give you an example, and this is a personal example. So when I post a picture of me living my mundane life, unbothered, eating my vegetables, talking about life, connecting with people, people don't want to pay attention to that. But if I post a picture, it's still my life. If I post a picture of my life eating somewhere out in some place exotic, it's not what I do every day, but once in a while I go to Beverly Hills to a nice hotel and eat a good meal. Right. I don't do this every day.
Right.
But that's the picture. If I took a picture in Beverly Hills at a very nice restaurant, dressed really nice, everybody else gravitates more to that picture.
Right.
Than they gravitate to this other picture where I'm telling them, you know what? The best way to live is this way. And this is my new song to guide you through this life. They would rather have the other picture where I'm telling them, yo, I'm in Beverly Hills right now. I'm in Beverly Hills right now. Look at this picture, look at the color, and look at how well I'm living. Even if that's just something temporary, that's what they prefer. And they prefer a person speaking like that than the mundane, simple picture.
Right. Okay.
So that becomes the conflict of the artist, that they would like to see you on a private jet.
Right. So it might be...
But you want to show them your ghetto house, and they're like, nah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it might be just that it's easy to digest a fun moment. So if you're just eating toast and it's boring, then it might be like, well, so what? But if you like eating toast and you have a really happy look on your face and you're like, it's just the simple things, that might actually do well. Who knows? That might actually resonate with people.
Yeah.
We love fantasy, and it's normal to love fantasy, right? I think it's actually kind of part of a weird human trait that might actually be one we want to get rid of, which is we like to look up. We like to look at people who are doing better than us. We like to envy them. Yeah. We like to want to, we like kings and queens. Yeah. Like, we don't have a royal family in Britain anymore, but people are obsessed with these folks.
With being a king and a queen.
People are nuts about that. Like, it's a televised event when there's a wedding. It's a huge deal. And everyone's like, wow, it's so majestic and like interesting, right? Yeah. I don't know what the mechanism is psychologically for that, but I'm not...
Yeah, so it's not really a mechanism. So there's this name, I don't know why I keep forgetting this name, but there's a dude who there was a marketeer, somebody who actually designed the life that we live in right now, the way that we consume the products, the way we consume things right now. There's the need, but then there's the need of you, oh, I need a cup of coffee, I need to go buy coffee. But then there's this need of, he will make you drink the cup of coffee twice a day, even if you only need it once. So I'll look up this name. I'll look up this name. But in this world, he made everybody believe that we might be done away with the kings and queens, but you can be your own king and queen. So the bed is no longer going to be called a bed. It's going to be called the king's bed, the queen's bed. So that everybody has a piece of that for your life. And in the life where everybody has been told that you have to be successful from the moment you wake up, the parents do it to their kids every morning. It's conditioning. So by the time you grow up, you're still on the treadmill, and the treadmill does not stop. We don't even know how to stop the treadmill. But everybody is running towards an elusive idea of success. Because success is not a destination. There's no place called now I'm successful, because if that were a thing, the people with billions wouldn't still be waking up to work.
I don't know. I think if you talk to
it's the conditioning. We've been told that in America you can become successful and become a god of your own. You know, like you can create this larger than life persona. You can come from being a pauper to dining with kings. Everybody has been sold this dream. It's America uses the same marketing strategy. The Western world uses that marketing strategy, and the whole world has bought it. There are places like India, China, Dubai, Africa, where the villages didn't really, they had kings and chiefs and everything, but it was more communal. The king was just there to serve the people. And in these places, some people opted for enlightenment, which is, let me do away with all the wealth and work on myself and visualize the higher being that I can become, dealing away with all this. The Buddhist philosophy.
Right.
Let me starve myself with 1 grain of rice, right? And see how I can become a better human being. Like all those ideas, in most cases, conflict with what is being sold with consumerism and capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, though, I get a different response when I talk to people from different walks of life. Like, if you're in LA and you talk to entertainers, it's a lot of ego-driven behavior, right?
Yeah.
People are... You hear a guy like, was it Gary Vee or whatever?
Gary Vee, yeah.
Right, Gary Vee, and he's like...
You don't like Gary.
No, I mean... I get it, but I don't necessarily think what he's selling is of real intrinsic value to most people. I think it's also fantasy dressed up as like a self-help, and it's not particularly new. What is it? This is like a great thing that somebody said to describe something, and it was like, because a lot of times someone like Gary Vee, who's like got so much content, it takes a little bit longer to like figure out what they're really saying. And what you often find in this case is that what's new isn't really true, and
what's new isn't really true,
and what's not new, so like basically most of it's not new, or what's true isn't new, and what's new isn't true. It's the idea that like this is just the guys dressing up some stuff that's basically hacky self-help motivational bullshit.
Yeah.
But he's like packaging it to sort of make it seem like it's his own brand of the same bullshit. And it's not actually new.
Nothing
and it's
new
not,
is being invented. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if you dig into someone who's got that much content and you try to look at what is of value for real, and is that anything that's actually new and interesting, and is this person's perspective unique in any kind of tangible way? A lot of the time you'll find no, everything that's true is recycled, and everything that seems like it's new is just packaging that's actually distracting, and a lot of the time not even true.
So you think Gary Vee, Ty Lopez are the new Dale Carnegie? Well,
Ty Lopez is a full-on charlatan. And I think Gary Vee might be a charlatan. I don't know. I like his persona a lot more. But he might just be better at selling also a package that's not particularly all that valuable. Again, the idea of trying to sell someone a pipe dream and make people feel that like without this level of glory, somehow their life is like, that's why you're confused, that's why you're unhappy. I'm not sure that's actually a healthy psychological thing to do to folks. I would also say it seems to resonate with younger people who are constantly like being inundated with the social media attention, and it seems to resonate with people who, let's say, don't have their own kids or don't have families that they need to look after. People that have that, their priorities are different. It's not their life is comprised of more than just their own ego.
Would you put Jay-Z in that picture?
In what I mean, Jay-Z's an artist. And a
Jay-Z is an artist, but also his story has been of encouraging you that I came from nothing and I had to sell drugs. I had to go through A, B, C, and D.
I would not
Now I have $1 billion.
No, I would not put Jay-Z in the same category at all, because he's actually created art that is of at least cultural significance.
Yes.
It's very different than a person whose entire content is just talking at the camera, trying to excite you to go start the next, to be an entrepreneur.
Don't you think the next thing is them writing books?
Who?
Gary Vee is going to be writing a book. I'm so sure of it.
Why would he? Do you think people are going to read his book?
Do you know how many followers he has?
Yeah, but I don't think those people are reading books.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But no. But the new book nowadays is the
No, actually, never mind.
Is the
Gary Vee's
lecturing fee? It's the lecturing fee.
What am I talking
It can
about?
be an audio book. They don't even have to
No.
read it. They
Gary
just have
Vee's-
to listen.
Gary Vee's
to-
already written a bunch of books. He wrote
yeah?
he wrote this book called
See?
Crushing It, and he wrote like,
See,
I mean, it's the same sales pitch,
Yeah.
right? It's the same idea of like, if you're not in the zone 24/7, then you're wasting your time. And I don't. That's cool if you need
Yeah.
that push, and if you have that level of ambition, that's cool. But I don't think it's actually necessarily that the best way a human can be.
can live and
Yeah, I mean, if your life is a
I think
gift.
yeah.
If you're super lucky to just be on this planet to begin with, right? Isn't part of your responsibility to enjoy what you have, to appreciate everything that's around you, to just be content where you are?
Namaste.
I mean, isn't that a better way of being, right?
It is.
Rather than getting up and
is.
being miserable and feeling like you're having to chase this completely constructed idea of what
Yeah.
success happens to be today. We're already living. Most folks that are alive today are already living in so much privilege compared to any other time in history.
Yeah.
We have access to more medicine. You can if you can afford it, you can get on a plane and literally go anywhere in the
Anywhere
world.
in the world, yeah.
There's
You
way
can talk
less.
to your family anytime you want to.
Yeah,
Instead of posting, you can talk to your family
that's amazing,
and
right?
show you actually love them by talking to them.
And we're coming up with new ways to be unhappy
Yeah. So you're saying
and to feel
everything
inadequate.
You're saying everything is the pressure that we're putting on us on ourselves as a society can just be done away with by unplugging from this matrix.
I'm saying everything that is driving the economy, marketing, is basically
Let me
preying
look for
on
that
your
dude.
your feeling of inadequacy.
Yeah.
You just need to buy this new thing and you're going to be happy. You just need to become this new kind of person to be happy. You need to listen to this new motivational speaker to be happy.
To get the keys.
And there's this old parable, right, where this guy, there was like this Buddha on the mountain, or this wise teacher on the mountain, and the guy went up. This guy like left his village and walked for a few hundred miles. Finally got to this mountain, climbed up this mountain, and saw this wise guru on the mountain, and said, hey, and he said, I've come all this way, and I got to tell you, I got this problem with my wife. And he told the story about like what, the state of the marriage and what was going on, and the Buddha said, yeah, I can't help you with that. And he's like, okay, well let me tell you about my son, because I have this other major problem with my son. It's a really big problem, and talks about how his son is like into drugs and gambling and is whatever the story is. He explains all these things, and the Buddha just listens, and he gets to the end of the story, and he's like, so what do you think? What do you think I should do? And the Buddha says, I can't help you with your son. I can't help you with that problem at all. And he's like, what? I came all this way? You're not going to help me with these problems?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. So like, what about at least like, my like employment situation he talks about is like the farm he's working at and how it's going and how it's difficult and like his relationship with his boss. And Buddha says, I can't help you with that either. And he said, and the Buddha, so the guy's confused, and the Buddha says, everybody has 86 problems.
86, not 99.
Not 99. Well, let's say for this, because it's a GNL Zamba podcast, let's say it's 99.
Everybody has 99 problems. Yeah.
He says everyone's got 99 problems at all times. And I can't help you with your 99 problems. I can help you with your 100th problem, which is that you think in order to be complete or happy or okay or content, you need to get rid of all these 99 problems. That's your 100th problem. That's the only one I can help you with.
Wow.
That you understand that as soon as you solve one of those problems, which you should, there's going to be a new one that replaces it. The other problem is this mechanism that you have that is the sense that you're always chasing something, that you're never okay, that you can't actually just sit and enjoy wherever you are and with whoever you're with.
Interesting. I really like that. Is this a true story? It's like a you said it's a parable.
It's a parable, yeah.
Where is it from? Like India, China?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's India, ancient India.
There's a lot of wisdom in all those ancient communities. We as Nsimbi, I'll talk about Nsimbi again, which is
we got to wrap this up.
Which is the musical duo. We have music that we believe ancient knowledge is much more. We should use that ancient knowledge to inform the present, because we have lost so much of what makes us human, and having that service for each other. That if you look at all the messages from all these Asian communities in Africa, the proverbs they have, whether it's the Incas in South America, look at the people in North America, the Native Americans, look at the Caucasians, Roman, Greek philosophers, and look at Egyptians, look at the Chinese, look at the Indians, like all these other places of knowledge. They all had this thing of the best way to become the better version of yourself is in service to other people. Like you fill your heart with so much love so that you have no space for hatred. Jesus had the same thing. He never talked about wealth. The wealth was not for you. Just do unto others as you like to be done to yourself. Simple. He didn't talk about tithe. That's just the politics that came in later when Koromas are trying to conquer and take away people's money. Look at Buddha. Enlightenment. Like, go through all these steps of life until you reach enlightenment.
Right.
The highest version of yourself. The Hindus, they have so many gods, but all these other gods that will help them to achieve the highest version of themselves. You look at Muhammad. Do unto others as you would like to be done unto you. It's part of also Muslim teaching, because Jesus, according to the Muslims, is Prophet Isa. But even for Muhammad, it's just that divine message. So this message has been carried on by so many messengers, but at the end of the day, it aims at promoting the goodness in all of us. It isn't just about material. This marketing scheme, which was devised by Edward Louis Bernays, which was the name I was looking for, who's the father of propaganda, who also happened to be related to Freud,
Freud's nephew, yeah.
Freud's nephew. So he was the evil nephew, if I were to call him the evil nephew, who figured out that this consumerism that we have has to be fed. It has to be marketed. We shouldn't even call it propaganda. Now we should call it PR.
Yeah.
Like he polishes the turd. You get me? Like, it's shitty, but he packages it really well and tells you this is going to fill the gap that's in your life.
We should dig into Edward Bernays a lot more next week.
Yeah, we should. And we are about to wrap up right now. It's your boy GNL Zamba. Give us more feedback on the podcast. It's going to be live on iTunes. It is live on iTunes.
Great.
Live on Google Podcast, and you can catch it on YouTube, where you're going to be watching the video. We dive into all these conversations. We talked about the environment, talked about our consumerism, ended up with some version of spirituality, and the guru Ben Wilkins has been guiding us through all these principles that we should go through to attain the highest version of ourselves. So catch you next time. It's the Zambaland Podcast. Peace and love. Be good to each other. Once.
Zamba. BABOON force. A legend.